E aí galera, sejam bem-vindos a mais uma live da Gamers e Games. Eu sou o Ricardo e na live de hoje, What Remains of Edith Finch, que é um jogo maravilhoso que eu trouxe aqui pro canal, que eu quero jogar mais uma vez aqui. Então eu quero a companhia de vocês. Não vai ser uma live que eu vou ficar conversando, tá? Mas vocês podem mandar mensagem. Se vocês mandarem mensagem eu converso. Se não, eu vou ficar quietinho aqui pra não atrapalhar quem só quer ver o gameplay, tá? Eu tô aqui no cantinho hoje. Eu sempre tô no cantinho porque eu gosto do cantinho. Mas eu vou tentar fazer que as legendas não fiquem atrás da minha câmera aqui, tá? Pra não atrapalhar vocês também. Então vamos lá, começar What Remains of Edith Finch. Maravilhoso esse jogo aqui. Tá legendado em português e a maior parte ela vai falando, tá? Só que não tá dublado em português. Vamos lá. Não apertei nada, tá? Ela que começou aqui. Mas falando em apertar, deixa já um like no vídeo aí se você gostar do nosso conteúdo. Se inscreva no canal se não for inscrito ainda. E acompanhe e ative o sininho para receber as notificações quando tiver live nova aqui, beleza? Vamos lá. E também se inscreva no canal Retrô Night, ó, tá passando aqui embaixo, que o link tá lá na descrição. Canal Retrô Night para você que gosta de jogo antigo, beleza? Vamos lá, começar Edith Finch. Atmosfera maravilhosa desse jogo.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
Olha onde a menina mora, velho.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago. Open immediately.
Ó, a casinha.
I hadn't been back since my brother Lewis's funeral. In her will, my mother left me a key, but didn't tell me what it unlocked. A mystery would be enough to bring me back.
Aqui tem dois caminhos para escolher, tá? A parte de baixo e a parte de cima. Eu vou pela parte de cima primeiro e depois eu dou uma volta pela parte de baixo para vocês verem o que tem.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints. Never thought I'd come back to it. But now I had questions about my family that only the house knew the answers to.
E que casa!
Remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Vamos lá, agora eu vou pelo caminho de baixo.
The woods around the house have always been uncomfortably silent. As if they're about to say something but never do.
E aqui em cima já optei por ir por cima lá, certo? Por baixo mesmo.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words. Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were. I was afraid of the house. I hoped the key might unlock the front door. It didn't. Looking in, I felt like the house itself had been waiting for me. Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11. For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
Que gráfico animal esse jogo tem, cara.
But instead of a family, there were just memories of one. Like how after Lewis started work, I got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly. There was just too much of it. Like a smile with too many teeth. Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, where it sank. The table was still a wreck from the night we left. I'd gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture. Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
Barbara Finch. Cara, esse jogo seria muito legal em VR, hein?
Edie's father Odin built the original house. Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left.
Todos os quartos trancados aqui.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room. I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
Cara, a primeira live caiu. Aí a segunda...
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but
Não sei por que não entrou o chat. Mas era pra estar o chat, sim.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
Não, o chat tá em cima. Tá vendo? Tô vendo as mensagens. Ó, o canal só PlayStation tá aí também. Não poderia ficar, mas o like sim. Grande abraço, fica na paz e ótima live. Valeu, cara. Tá oscilando bastante o que você tá falando. A live? Você. Porque pra mim tá dando bastante buffer, cara. Pelo jeito caiu, né? Não, não caiu, não. Da Twitch não apareceu. Vou tentar de novo. Tá, eu vou tentar não falar muito aqui, porque senão atrapalha a menina falando aqui.
I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Being inside for the first time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage. I got the sense Edie had spent a lot of time here before my mom sealed the doors.
Molly Finch.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I looked around for something to eat. The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it. My Halloween candy was all gone. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go to sleep.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
Tadinho do Christopher. Esse canal deveria ter passado os 10k faz tempo, mas considero qualidade e quantidade. É isso que encontro aqui. Valeu, cara. Obrigado mesmo. Também não entende o que acontece, mas tamo aí, né? Comendo até pasta de dente, ó.
I ate a lot of things that night. Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
Cara, que incrível isso, né?
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me. I jumped and I almost got her. I could tell she was getting really tired.
Podia perceber que ela estava cansada.
Now I was up in the big tree.
Agora eu estava no alto de uma
I
árvore.
promised Dad I wouldn't climb
Prometi
it
para meu
anymore.
pai que não ia subir mais.
All I cared about was eating
Mas
that
tudo que eu
mama
queria
bird.
comer era aquela mamãe passarinho. Marcelo Luz com a gente aí também. Ô, Ricardo, você não jogou mais RV? Cara, é difícil jogar realidade virtual porque eu dependo do Marcelo. Eu preciso ter alguém junto comigo pra ler as mensagens de vocês. Então é meio difícil eu jogar o VR. Mas tá aqui o VR ainda, viu?
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard, then I heard little teeth nibblings.
Cara, é muito legal esse jogo. Imagina se fosse em VR.
Rabbits. I imagined his face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't. Then I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit.
É, uma mamãe coelha. Tô errando, hein? Cadê? Perdi de vista. Aqui.
She was almost too big to carry. I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
Um tubarão, cara. Rolando na grama.
I rolled off the cliff and into the ocean.
Rolei penhasco abaixo e caí no
I
mar.
was hungrier than ever. I wanted fat, juicy seals. I tore off her flipper and it tasted really good.
Perdi ela de vista. Aqui. Oh, mas tá difícil de pegar, hein? Ali é. Os controles não estão invertidos, então tá meio esquisito de jogar.
I grabbed on tight. I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed. Now I was a monster and I smelled people everywhere.
Olha o tamanho dessa cobra.
I was big when I moved real quiet.
Vou dar a volta aqui.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't. Passenger, I was still hungry. And to cross the water, I swam something new. Something I had to
Depois do
have,
último
so I
passageiro.
swam
Ah, droga.
towards it.
Então eu nadei em sua direção. Ela sentiu o cheiro de algo do outro lado. Anaconda, velho.
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
Saiu da privada, cara.
I got closer and closer. All of my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
Bizarro. Olha o som.
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have. This will be obvious later, but my mom never told me any of these stories.
Isso vai ficar óbvio mais tarde, mas minha mãe nunca me contou essas histórias. A Edith teria, mas minha mãe não.
When we adopted a stray kitten,
Apesar de quando
she was the one who named it Molly.
adotamos um gato abandonado, foi ele que cuidou de Molly. Tô lendo porque eu sei que eu tô bem na frente da legenda aí. Só que não tem onde ficar, não tinha onde eu ficar, entendeu? Na hora que eu coloquei a câmera. Porque tem legenda pra...
In Great Grandma Edie's room. Louis died a week before we left, but Edie had already started to memorialize him.
Muita coisa pra olhar na casa, cara. Muito detalhe.
Her room was like a museum.
Tá, antes de dar coisa aqui.
Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious. I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time. When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She could have, but she didn't. Even in her 90s, sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother. The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife, Kay, left on the house was the pink bathroom. It was a pretty big trace. For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune and misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan.
Bom, eu vou deixar um pouquinho aí pra vocês conseguirem ler também, tá?
On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind. But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house. Whatever's wrong with this family, it goes back a long ways.
Acho que agora vai abrir a porta aqui. Não.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go. For a few weeks, she was a celebrity.
E agora? Ah.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book. Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down. From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me. I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it. My brother said he'd die, and he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again, and he wasn't. I think Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam! Calvin!
Coming! But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it. I told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin! I'm not gonna tell you again!
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Trágico demais, cara.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
Quem nunca tentou fazer isso, né? Girar na balança.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
É, você tem razão, Sal. Tudo é trágico nesse jogo. É daqui que eu vim. Esse jogo em realidade virtual ia
The
ficar
passages
um
were a
arraso.
pretty tight fit.
Eu voltei, então vou no quarto da Bárbara.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star. I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Nossa, esse aqui é um dos mais legais, né, de Saulo?
Of all the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch. As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up. A has-been. But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate when...
Now that was a great scream.
Esse foi um ótimo grito. Tá aparecendo um balãozinho atrás de mim aqui.
Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So Barbara got stuck babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Então Bárbara teve que cuidar de seu irmão mais novo, Walter. Seu retorno na convenção foi
I'm hearing
cancelado.
frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding until finally the key pops out.
Thanks, babe. I'll be back in a sec.
Obrigado, Pedro.
Minutes later, Rick hadn't returned. So Barbara went to look right on cue. She reached for the music box.
Posso jogar, cara.
Wound the key. She listened for Rick, but the house was silent. She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
Que sensacional, né, cara?
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman killer, Dr. Carl Hamill, who impaled and then ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
The old fridge rattled.
A velha geladeira crepitou e ficou em silêncio.
Oh dear!
Oh!
Rick?
Barb, relax. I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you...
She threw him out, but she kept a little something to remember him by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was sick when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Okay, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
Muito legal isso, cara.
Walter, are you there? Walter had vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
Barbara turned, saw the hook man, and was speechless. He was quite smashing. And he was. He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
That night, she played her part beautifully. Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The story might not be over yet. Vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard... At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. It was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters eyes what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there myself, but I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the Plick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter, hiding under his bed the whole time. He took it all pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call...
Tudo pra dizer, vá até a caixa de música.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending. I guess now I know why Mom didn't like me playing with the music box. Mom said it was off limits, unless I wanted another tetanus shot. I saw Edie sneak down, carrying packages. Maybe she was hiding presents. It turned out she was hiding a lot more than that. That's about where Walter had gone. She said after Barbara died, he got as far away as he could. If there's a pattern in all these stories, I think it's that none of us has gotten very far.
Goodbye, everyone. I can't believe I've been down here for 30 years. On that first day, after the shaking started, I didn't think I'd survive a week. But after a few days, I settled into a routine. That's what kept me sane. Having a schedule, living for today. I always expected to be dead tomorrow. But if you wait long enough, you get used to anything. Even a monster on the other side of the door starts to feel normal. Almost
1976.
friendly. And then one day, everything just
2005.
stopped. Whatever that thing was, it was gone. Maybe it got tired of waiting. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. It's been a week now, the longest in 30 years. I'm done waiting. I have to leave while I still can. I know it's out there somewhere. Whatever killed Barbara and Molly and Calvin. Maybe this is all a mistake. But I need to stop living the same day. Even if it kills me. Whatever's out there, I want you to know I'm ready for it. I'm going to appreciate all of it, especially the food. I don't mind if I only have a year left, or a month, or a single week. I'd be happy with one new day. Imagine the sun on my face.
Walter died when I was 6. I can't believe my mom never told me he was down here. I'm sure my mom was trying to protect me. Maybe she was afraid I'd end up like Walter. But if she never told me about an uncle under the house, I can only imagine what else. I don't want to make the same mistakes she made. Trying to bury something that's still alive. Now that there's only one of us left, or maybe two, I thought it was time I heard the stories for myself and found out what happened to everyone else. But now I'm worried the stories themselves might be the problem. Maybe we believed so much in a family curse, we made it real. I don't know if I should even be writing this. Maybe it'd be better if all this just died with me. But I thought you should know about your family. And the history you're a part of. Though to be honest, I feel as lost as you probably do right now. I think the people in these stories believed them, for what that's worth. And when you look at the house, that history of imagination and stubbornness and madness, any of it seems possible. I think we've been surrounded by death for so long, we've just gotten used to it. What kind of family finishes building a cemetery before starting the house? It's embarrassing for me to admit this, but the pet cemetery is more uncomfortable than the human one. 3 of the gerbils were mine, and 2 had been my fault. Sven built the house, but it was Edie who designed the cemetery. I'm sure Odin's monument had been Edie's idea. My mom was always trying to move on, but for Edie, the past never... She could see it poking out of the water at low tide. Edie said she dreamed about the old house every night. Edie's side was always easier for me to understand. But the older I get, the more I can see where my mom was coming from. Her dad had been pretty strict, but it wasn't enough to save her brother. She was just trying to do better. She lost 2 of her brothers, just like I did. I get why she tried so hard to protect us. We never found Milton's body, so my mom insisted we were putting up a monument, not a tombstone. There's so many things I wish I could ask my mom now.
Tem tanta coisa que eu queria
Part
poder
of me
perguntar pra minha
thinks
mãe
this is
agora.
what she wanted all
Parte de mim
along,
acha que era isso que ela queria o
for me
tempo
to come
todo.
back someday
Eu voltar algum dia.
and find everything out for myself.
Descobrir tudo sozinha.
But looking back on it now, if she told me there was going to be so much climbing, I never would have come when I was 22 weeks pregnant. I never met Grandpa Sam, but I think he and my mom had a lot in common. They were both pretty intense.
Dawn, I promise, you'll never forget this weekend.
Yes, sir.
These memories are gonna last a lifetime.
Am I gonna have to shoot anything?
It's a hunting trip, Dawn. Shooting is strongly encouraged.
Shouldn't we be leaving?
Just want to get a shot of you, Dawn, then we can take off. Perfect.
It's gonna rain the whole weekend, isn't it? I will never forget this weekend, Dad.
That's the spirit. Okay, got it.
I'm gonna take some pictures, okay?
Just be careful. The camera's older than you are. Hey!
That's a keeper.
Definitely should not have drunk all that coffee. I'm just saying, I'm not always gonna be here, Dawn. You'll need to remember this stuff, if you want to survive.
I'll be fine, Dad.
You know who else thought he was gonna be fine?
Some guy who died.
Dawn, I'm being serious.
I know, Dad. You're always serious. Doesn't being out here make you want to chill out?
Well, to tell you the truth, I haven't been out here in 20 years. Dawn, don't you think you could find something more interesting to photograph? Last time I was with my brother Calvin. Man, that was a great trip. Your grandpa Sven taught us how to fish, how to build a fire. We found an old logging trail. There were deer everywhere. I bet if I could remember where that trail was, we'd spot a buck for you in no time. Give me a minute to check the map. You don't need to on me, kiddo. surprise, Dawn. Before you take the shot, let me get a picture of you.
Dad, I...
Just... Yeah.
Do I have to do this?
Dawn, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to survive, you'll need to be strong. Great shot, Dawn! I'm proud of you, Dawn. Always remember that, okay? Sorry, Dawn, just gotta reset the timer.
Twitching. I think
That's
it's
totally
so...
normal, Dawn. Just focus on the camera. Try not to think about...
Dad!
Of all these stories, that's the one I wish most that my mom had told me. Sam spent his life shooting photos, but Mom said he got nervous being in front of the camera. I guess we're all afraid of something. Instead of hiding from death, Sam seemed to go out of his way to meet it. My mom and Edie got really close. They'd both lost a lot.
Dear Kay, do you remember the way Gregory used to laugh when he thought he was alone? Like something funny was happening, but only he could see it. I think he saw things the rest of us don't.
Gregory, it's time to... Hold on, sweetie. Hello? Sam, I told you I don't want to talk right now.
I wonder what he saw. What his world was like. Reminded me so much of Calvin. Lost in his imagination. Whatever it was he saw. It sure made him happy. how silly it sounds. That I worried about a baby being too happy. But I could feel him slipping away.
Sorry about that, Gregory.
I know you did everything you could.
Damn it. Hold on, I don't want anyone to hear this.
I wish he could have told us about the world he saw. There's so much I don't understand. About Gregory. About everything. But I know what happened wasn't your fault. I'm sure he's happy. And he'd want you to be happy too. Good luck, Kay. Love, Sam.
I can't imagine my mom ever writing poetry, and yet...
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard. My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, we don't need a stepmom, were the words that I
now pronounce you husband and you may kiss the bride.
E agora?
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent. rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." I wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea, and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus. My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died.
Minha mãe foi para o loft depois que os irmãos dela morreram.
At the time, it was as far
Na
away.
época era o mais longe que ela podia ir.
She spent a summer building houses. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Lewis was born a year later.
Ué, saio daqui?
When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back. The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal, but it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
Essa parte é muito interessante. Essa parte aqui ela conta, ela tem uma referência de um outro jogo chamado Unfinished Swan, por Annapurna. E tem esses passos aqui, ó. Inclusive a música é do Unfinished Swan. É um jogo muito interessante também. Como esse aqui. Inclusive isso aqui é uma puta de uma referência.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush. 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the
maravilhoso.
house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Você jogou o The Unfinished Swan? Também veio na Plus.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself.
Incrível, cara.
After he
Joga.
graduated, he just spent more
Joga
and
que é
more
legal.
time in
Você vai
his
gostar.
room
Não é comprido também.
until
Né?
Mom got him a job at the cannery.
É bem legal. Vale muito a pena jogar. Tem um barco em cima da casa, cara.
Lewis's room
O The Vanishing também é bom, viu?
very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Joguei inteiro também o The Vanishing. Lindo, lindo pra caramba.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse.
Essa aqui
Newly
é...
sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
Eu acho que eu tô bem em cima aqui da guilhotina. Vai ser uma guilhotina que corta a cabeça do salmão aqui, ó. Aí eu jogo ele pra lá.
In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to...
Aí, ó, já começou aqui, ó. Já tô mexendo no carinha aqui do lado, ó.
I asked him to describe it. More. Imagining a labyrinth. He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. And things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head.
Tem que movimentar ele e movimentar o peixe aqui também, a mão
He took it
dele.
very seriously. I had hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more.
Que maravilhoso, né, cara?
I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery.
Sonhando acordado na fábrica de conservas.
I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick.
A imaginação do cara.
Then he made musicians. songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was doing something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. So he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor. And he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis, until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Louis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. The queen was on her own quest for sinister serpents. He followed the sound of her electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Louis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him.
Onde entender essa aqui?
He began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt. I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting me. Queen waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head. I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
Trágico.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him. Lewis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them.
Ah.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. But I understand why we left.
Eu acho que caiu a live. Não caiu, não. Ainda tá aí. Rodou, demorou um pouco, mas foi.
All that's left now is to tell you about that last night.
É, então, tá dando buffer pra caramba. Será que é a minha internet aqui que não tá mandando o suficiente?
That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
to our final night together, and all our final nights apart.
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right.
Desculpe, você está certa. Vamos todas embora amanhã. Vamos aproveitar nossa última. Eu não vou.
Edith, you're excused.
Ah. Bom, vamos continuar aqui.
The power had been shut off that morning,
Acabando.
but Edie always had plenty of candles. When my mom sealed the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance. Or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
Dear Edith, there's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. God, it smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. When the fog rolled in, I lost my way. I got turned around. For a while, I wandered. I started seeing things. Things I'd forgotten had ever existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Or maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it! Let go! I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car.
Mas minha mãe me arrastou até o carro e...
I never saw Great-Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. If we lived forever, maybe we'd have time to understand things. But as it is, I think the best try to open our eyes. And appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you. But now I hope you'll never see it. I just want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way.
Família Finch.
This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
Final de jogo. É isso aí. Gostou do jogo, galera? Deixa um like no vídeo. Se assistiu até aqui, deixa um comentário aí. Qual o próximo jogo que você gostaria de ver aqui na Gamers e Games, beleza? Tá, os créditos. Fotos de verdade. Jogo maravilhoso. Se você está chegando na live agora... eu amei esse jogo, cara. Eu amei demais. Amei demais esse jogo. E acho que tem troféu de platina. Acho, não tenho certeza. Não vou olhar agora porque tá bem no final, né? O Ethan Carter é o que você falou aí. Eu joguei também... Mas ele tem um lance de investigação, se eu não me engano, logo no começo. Você tem que ficar juntando umas frases e tal. Não é difícil. Eu lembro que eu terminei também, mas foi uma vez só. Talvez seja legal voltar aqui com ele também, hein? Vanishing Carter. Fala, Julião, beleza? Boa noite. Chegou no final da live, cara. Final do jogo. Se não jogou ainda, esse já jogou. Esse eu lembro que eu falei pra você jogar. Tenho certeza que você jogou. Né, cara? Então, o The Vanishing é interessante, só que o The Vanishing tem um problema, tá todo em inglês. Tá todo em inglês. Mas é lindo também. Inclusive tá instalado. Então, cara, eu não lembrava que toda a família era trágica. Eu achei que... Eu lembrava muito da história do peixe. Do cara que cortava as cabeças de atum lá pra salmão fazer atum. Então, é tudo em... Isso que é foda do Vanishing. Aí você sabe como eu sou bom de tradução, né? Então, eu sou péssimo pra traduzir. Eu sei que, pra mim, eu consigo traduzir palavra por palavra, entendeu? Annapurna Interactive. E buffering. Buffer tá dando muito bom, tem. Por que será? Um controle de PlayStation misturado com Super Nintendo. Ah, na Twitch também, né? Então, será que... Não sei, cara. The End. Isso aí, pessoal. Terminou aqui. Quem gostou, deixa um like no vídeo. E sininho pra novas... Pra atingir não, pra receber notificações quando tiver um novo vídeo aqui no canal, beleza? Sou o Ricardo, essa foi a Gamers e Games com What Remains of Edith Finch. E o meu mouse não quer funcionar para fazer a saída bonitinha aqui, então eu vou ter que fazer assim.